Hello, I am Dr. Mirela Cernăianu, and I welcome you to the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD podcast, the WOW MD podcast. I am not your typical wellness coach, and this is not a typical wellness podcast. Here, I'll discuss educational facts about health, hormones, intimacy, anti-aging, and beauty trends, all very hot topics, to empower you to make great choices when it comes to your health and to your body. I want you to go, wow, I did not know that. Or, wow, this is going to make a great difference for me. Our healthcare system is broken and it needs a revolution. You and I can start one today. I am willing to share my knowledge with the world if you're willing to listen. Let's get started. Hello, listener, and thank you for coming back to the Wellness Optimizing Warrior MD podcast. This episode continues the series of sex hormones in women and men, and today's topic is testosterone. There is a lot to say about this hormone, and the two genders, male, female, are very different in how testosterone works and how to discuss it. So I will start with the ladies. This podcast is all about testosterone for women. So ladies first. And I would like to approach and tackle testosterone in women in this episode. And I'm likely going to continue with the next episode too. But if you're a man, please continue listening. You might learn something very valuable that can help that significant lady or ladies in your life. In the vast universe of human biology, the functions of estrogen and testosterone in women's bodies, for me personally, conjure up the vivid imagery of the sun and the moon. Just as these celestial bodies exist in complete harmony, these two hormones, those generally viewed as opposites in the gender binary context, male and female, these two hormones, estrogen and testosterone, steadily work together to maintain equilibrium in a woman's body. I love testosterone. Not as much as estrogen, but if the estrogen is the sun for a woman's body, imagine testosterone being like the moon, kind of dark and mysterious, as a lot of women have no idea it even exists or what it does for a woman. And the ones that do know about testosterone, and they do know they have testosterone in their body, they're not clear on what testosterone does exactly and how important is it for them. I get this question a lot. So if I use testosterone, am I going to grow a beard? Am I going to turn into a man? And those two questions are very typical, and they just show how very little women know about testosterone for women. So if the estrogen is the sun, and the testosterone is the moon, it's kind of like estrogen is the day, testosterone is the night, opposing and contrasting, but really working together on so many levels. Keep in mind, we cannot inhabit Earth without either the sun or the moon. We need to have both. The day is bright and warm, while the night is dark and cold without the sun. We need the night just as we need the day. We need rest, peace, and quiet. The night is the other side of us, and so is testosterone for women. And it's as important as all the other sides and components of our human body. We already know, because I've discussed this a lot in a couple of episodes, that estrogen, the female hormone, plays a fundamental role in women's health. Again, I dedicated 3 episodes to estrogen. Obviously, there's way more to be said and discussed about estrogen roles in a female body. But as a reminder, estrogen is involved in the development of our secondary sexual characteristics during puberty. It's involved in the regulation of our menstrual cycle, our sexual health, and the maintenance of pregnancy. Estrogen helps maintain a healthy mood and brain function. It nourishes and strengthens our musculoskeletal and heart health. It keeps our skin looking young and pretty. And it is really like the youth juice for so many as they age and replace estrogen. In this context, estrogen can be likened to the sun. It is our life-bearing star, a powerhouse hormone, just as the sun sustains life on Earth. Estrogen sustains life for women. As the sun shines brightly in the firmament, estrogen charts its course in a woman's body, fostering life and nurturing growth and supporting healthy aging as it is replaced after menopause. Testosterone, traditionally known as the male hormone, also plays a very important part in women's health. Though present in much lower quantities than in men, testosterone contributes to libido, bone strength, muscle mass, mood and mental clarity. Testosterone gives us our drive, motivation, and ambition. Going with my analogy, where I said testosterone is like the moon, it subtly complements the life-giving sun, the estrogen. It provides balance and complexity, subtly altering the landscape of physiology, much like the moon gently changes the night's canvas. This delicate, intricate interplay of estrogen and testosterone in women mirrors the ancient Chinese philosophy of yin and yang. The Chinese philosophy holds that everything in the universe consists of two opposing but interconnected energies. Except in Chinese medicine, yin, or the feminine energy, in our case estrogen, has characteristics attributed to the moon, the earth, the darkness, passivity and absorption. It is linked to softness, moisture, downward seeking, slowness, and the docile aspects of things. Yin is often described as receptive, dark, cool, soft, still, contemplative. It aligns with estrogen, which plays its role in the soft, life-giving aspects of femaleness. Yang, on the other side, the masculine energy in Chinese philosophy, has characteristics of the sun energy and is associated with light, activity, and penetration. Its characteristics include those that are masculine, active, producing, and rational. For example, being enthusiastic, direct, excited, outgoing, logical. It's associated with day, sun, fire, hot, summer, hardness, dryness, joy, being reactive, upward seeking, being fast, restless, or productive. Yang is associated with activity, function, being expansive, outward, rigid, unwavering, dominant, controlling, and positive, reflecting testosterone's influence on asserting stronger features like bone and muscle mass, ambition, drive and motivation, or the need to succeed. So what I want you, my listener, to know after all this poetic description is that estrogen and testosterone, like the sun and the moon and the concept of yin and yang, despite their perceived differences, work in a complementary way, painting a very complete and comprehensive portrait of a woman's health. This harmony is a reminder that life often thrives not in absolutes, binaries, but in the complex, beautifully interconnected interplay of diverse elements. And sometimes it's just good to know this about yourself. Where does your inner nature gravitate more towards, the male or the female energies? Well, I know where I always am. I love to be in control. I have super high energy, don't drink any coffee, and I keep going all day. I lean towards being very happy, and I am very quick to express my frustration and negative emotions very clearly to those that surround me. I tend to be very impulsive as I am an Aries, so act first, think later. So I'm almost all yang energy. Seeking the feminine within has always been a bit of a struggle for me. As I matured, I realized the yang masculine energy is very useful and very powerful to get me going and get me where I wanted to be in my career. But the yin feminine energy was required to understand and connect meaningfully with my husband, Mike, my patients, my team, and all the other people I come across in my life. My yin qualities like compassion, patience, understanding, and listening, which, by the way, I constantly keep developing and working on, I know now they are crucial to keep me where I am and where I got due to my yang qualities. It is always about keeping balance and awareness. And this is also true about estrogen and testosterone working together in a woman's body. What is remarkable is that within the yin and yang resides a piece of each energy within the other, revealing and highlighting the concept that opposites do not exist without each other, and underlying the very essence of balance, or as we like to call this in the medical world, homeostasis. This concept perfectly embodies the relationship between estrogen and testosterone in women. They are not antagonistic. They might have some opposing effects, but in reality, they exist in harmony, each contributing uniquely to the health and well-being of women. So I talked about this concept of yin and yang and energies because I wanted to have the testosterone introduction as being soft and letting you think for yourself a little bit about this specific hormone. And that being said, let's dive right in. And let me tell you what I would like to touch on in this podcast. First, I'd like to discuss what is testosterone, where is it being produced in a woman's body. Then I'd like to discuss what testosterone specifically does for a woman's body, although I gave you a little preview earlier. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about how much testosterone we should have in a woman's body. What is a normal level? When should we check for a level? At what age and in what circumstances? So I'd like to preface getting into the nitty-gritty of testosterone and facts about testosterone with the very interesting notion that many women are completely uninformed or misinformed about testosterone and what it does in the female body. I sincerely hope you will be much more knowledgeable about testosterone after this podcast. Testosterone is not only essential for many sexual health functions, as a lot of women probably know, the most important of that being sexual desire, but it's also very important and crucial for a woman's well-being. Well, not as crucial as estrogen, but it is a very important hormone for our health. Why? Well, first of all, testosterone has not been associated with any increased cancer risk. So please remember this. It has not been associated with any increased cancer risk and does not have the proliferation growth effect that estrogen has on the uterus and breast tissue. On the contrary, it has anti-proliferating effects, kind of like the progesterone does for these two organs, the breast and the uterus. What many women do not know and what many doctors ignore is that testosterone is probably required to some extent to balance the two female hormones we have talked about so far, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are all part of the sex hormone team. The team is stronger and functions best when all these three hormones are optimal and in balance with each other. So let's dive right in. What is testosterone and where is it being produced in a woman's body? Well, testosterone is the third sex hormone in women after estrogen and progesterone. Testosterone is an androgenic hormone, the king of all androgens and the most potent of all androgens. The other androgens that exist in a woman's body that you might have heard of are DHEA, androstenedione, which are testosterone precursors, and DHT, dihydrotestosterone, a metabolite of testosterone. This is important. We'll touch on it in the next episode. Testosterone is being produced by the ovaries and by the adrenal glands in women. And some amount is also produced in different tissues from the variety of androgenic precursors that are produced by the ovary and the adrenal. So if you will, the ovary and the adrenal share almost equally the role of testosterone production. The main precursor for testosterone in the adrenal is DHEA, and the main precursor for testosterone in the ovary is androstenedione. These names might not mean a lot, and you might forget them as soon as I pronounce them. But you should know that there's a lot of interconversion between these various androgens throughout the body and throughout a woman's life. So testosterone is produced in the ovary from androstenedione, Keep in mind, we need a normal functioning ovary to make testosterone. What's interesting about the ovarian production of testosterone is that it does not stop at menopause for some women. And these women, these lucky women, continue to produce healthy amounts of testosterone. Unfortunately, many women produce very little testosterone from their ovaries when they're taking a birth control pill or using any method of birth control that will inhibit ovulation. That is important. And if you're a woman listening to this podcast and you're currently taking birth control pills and suffering from low sex drive, or much lower than it used to be, it's likely because your testosterone is a lot lower when you're on the pill, at least 50% lower. Testosterone is also produced in the adrenal from DHEA, a major prohormone that has many properties and benefits, one of which is being a testosterone precursor. It's also an estrogen precursor. Clearly, if you are very stressed, your body will prioritize shifting all precursors from the adrenal into making the number one adrenal hormone that is required when you're under stress, cortisol. So you will make a lot less testosterone and estrogen from DHEA because it all goes into making cortisol. So there will be much less testosterone output from the adrenal gland, maybe very little or none. So if you're a young woman that's currently taking birth control pills and are very stressed, you're effectively not likely to have any significant testosterone in your body. And you might feel it in the form of being tired, gaining weight, being cranky and irritable, being not motivated or much less motivated to work out, or being less productive at work and at home. So why is testosterone so important for a woman's body? Well, we all know, and hopefully you, my listener, also knows, that testosterone is a crucial hormone involved in sexual desire for women. Low testosterone is responsible for absent or very low sexual desire, lack of sexual fantasies, and an overall significantly decreased interest in being sexually intimate with anyone. So low testosterone in women, low sex for women, and low sex for their partners. Testosterone is really important for having good energy, and a lack of testosterone in women will be manifesting with significant fatigue. Replacing testosterone or boosting current testosterone production in a woman will lead to significant improvement in their energy levels. Testosterone is really important for a healthy mood, for optimism, and a positive outlook on life in general. So a testosterone deficiency will manifest with low mood, depression, anxiety, irritability, PMS. Remember, many women in the American society are being treated with antidepressants, and no one is looking at their testosterone levels. Testosterone helps with drive, ambition, and motivation. A testosterone deficiency will likely manifest with minimal motivation or no motivation to do anything, low self-esteem, lack of drive, and ambition. You just don't want to do anything or go anywhere. Testosterone is an anabolic hormone, so it's really important to maintain and grow muscle mass. It is also important to help recover us from intense and strenuous exercise. Low testosterone in a woman would manifest with the loss of muscle mass, a decrease in stamina, endurance, and longer than usual recovery post-exercise. Well, to sum it up, testosterone is great for sex, energy, a good mood, drive, ambition, maintaining a healthy weight, and a healthy bone mass and muscle mass. It sounds like a great hormone, doesn't it? Who wouldn't want more testosterone? Well, you likely will be very reluctant to consider it as being the problem for all these symptoms I mentioned earlier if you're not informed or not educated and you simply did not know that testosterone could do all these things I just said. Again, testosterone is great for sex, energy, good mood, drive and ambition, stamina and endurance. It keeps us lean and fit. I really have one word for testosterone for women. It's a great hormone. There most likely is an epidemic of low testosterone levels in women out there. And why do I say that? Because many women that I see are tired, depressed, gained weight, and really don't want to have any sex. Some women have felt like this for a very long time. And for some, it's a very depressing new state of being. And they wonder how they got there. So how do we know when we have low testosterone? Well, that's a great question. And it takes me to my next item to talk about. What is the normal testosterone level in women? This is really a very complicated topic as far as testosterone levels. And I'll explain why. We most likely have an abundance of testosterone when we are young, in our 20s. We're probably making less in our 30s as many women go through motherhood, and now career and stress and raising children are affecting the testosterone production from the adrenal. They don't want more children. They're using birth control. That's also cutting out testosterone from the ovary. And then testosterone literally declines in our 40s for pretty much almost all women due to ovarian and adrenal decline as both the ovary, the adrenal, and the body continue to age. If you wonder why your sexual desire is declining as you age, it doesn't necessarily mean you want to have less sex because you're too busy or because you're under a lot of stress at work. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're bored or less excited about your partner. It could mean that your testosterone, again, a very crucial hormone for normal sexual desire, has drastically declined. There is definitely some debate in the medical community and some significant confusion regarding what normal testosterone levels should be in women. The general consensus is that it should be somewhere between 12 and 85 picograms per deciliter. Ideally, if you're a woman inquiring about what your testosterone levels should be, and again, this is ideally, you would have had your testosterone level tested in your 20s when you were at the top of your game. And now we can use that as a baseline to compare to, or an optimal level to strive towards. This would have been your ideal highest testosterone level. And again, when we discuss replacement, we would strive to achieve this level as physicians. Unfortunately, and again, this is the pickle and the problem, no one is tested when they feel their best. No woman is going to go to a doctor and ask to be tested when she feels great. She has awesome sexual desire. She feels strong and happy. Women that want to get tested for testosterone are women who do not feel well, who are tired, have gained weight, don't want to have sex. They have depression, irritability. And this is a big problem because we don't have enough statistical data to know what the ideal testosterone level should optimally be for a woman when she actually feels great. And that's the pickle, like I said, and it's a big conundrum. Ideally, someone would design and do a study, including only young, healthy women who feel great, eat a healthy diet, sleep well, have minimal stress, exercise daily or are extremely active physically, have a strong sexual desire, they're in happy relationships, they feel happy and optimistic, then they would take all these women and check their testosterone level. Oh, and by the way, these women cannot be on birth control pills or any type of birth control that interferes with hormonal production. Again, I said ideally, doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get such a study set up anytime soon. But if we were able to, such a study will provide the medical community with excellent information on which we can now have a basis for establishing a normal reference range for testosterone level in healthy young women. Well, when is it going to get done? Your guess is as good as mine. And unfortunately, many women in today's world would not be able to fit all the criteria I just mentioned, which is very sad and very concerning. And the reason why that is so could be a subject for a podcast in and of itself, but I will not get into that today. But it would be interesting to ask why so many women have low testosterone, even when they're young, wouldn't it? Well, let's come back to what is normal for testosterone level in women. And let's discuss a little bit what the range is, because that's something that I get asked all the time. All doctors, when interpreting test results, look for whether or not the values are within range. None of the doctors that I know that refer patients to me that are in my network question how this reference range from the lab came to be. But when it comes to testosterone, and probably other labs as well, you should always ask your physician if he or she knows how and why the lab picked these reference range limits. You might get a very surprising answer, and that might be, I don't know. So if you don't know, as my physician, I am actually getting my results interpreted based on what Quest says my labs should be. That's a little crazy. So let me give you an example. If your doctor tells you that your testosterone level is 25, and it's actually good because it's in the reference range provided by the lab, you should definitely question that. According to the lab's reference range, 2 is minimum and 45 is minimum. And I think that's the reference range for Quest. I'm not sure what the reference range for LabCorp is. I don't use LabCorp very much. So according to the reference range, a testosterone level of 5, which is barely above 0, is in range and normal. Well, I don't think a testosterone level of 5 sounds good. It doesn't sound good to me, and it shouldn't sound good to you. It seems common sense that a testosterone level that is so low would not be considered normal. But it is considered normal by the majority of doctors that interpret these tests. And many doctors have absolutely no idea what an optimal testosterone level is in women. And again, that's not their fault. This is not taught in medical school. This is not taught in residency after medical school. And unless the doctor has a keen interest in hormones and hormone therapy, and unless he or she pays lots of money and spends lots of time studying, your doctor will honestly have no clue that testosterone is important in women, what is an optimal testosterone level, how to interpret the lab value, and will simply look for the range provided by the lab, reassure you it is all in your head and your hormones are fine. I honestly did not believe in testosterone very much, even though I got the training and I started doing the replacement therapy for women. And I really did not appreciate its value as a hormone until my patients came back to me and gave me feedback. I would hear some crazy stories about how I should have warned them what a significant spike in their libido they will get, how they wanted to have sex with a random stranger just because he was good looking. And sometimes he wasn't even good looking, but he seemed like a nice guy and they really wanted to have sex. I would hear some crazy stories about how after testosterone therapy, my patients became outspoken, confident, driven, and ambitious. And they demanded a promotion, a higher pay, and they got it. And I would get all the time the feedback how testosterone absolutely changed their life, their relationships, and their careers in a great way. I got this feedback from one patient that told me her husband was very thankful. And he said he wanted to vote me for president. He was so happy with the wife's hormone replacement therapy. I also have patients who come back and say, my husband told me it's time for my hormones because I was getting bitchy again. And again, there's more and more stories like this. So testosterone is a unique, interesting hormone that does so much for women. Please do not underestimate it. But let's come back to testosterone levels. So when I trained in testosterone therapy, the first question I asked my trainer, a very well-established and experienced hormone specialist, was how do I tell my patients that their testosterone should be XYZ when the lab reference range says 2 minimum, 45 maximum? The answer was, explain to the client we're aiming for optimal testosterone levels. So let's talk about the difference between having a level in range and having a level that is optimal. The dilemma is no one really knows what an optimal testosterone level is for women in general. Ideally, we would have all this cohort of women that we selected that are young and healthy and look great and feel great. and want to have sex and they're not on birth control pills and see what it is. We don't have that data. So at this point, based on anthropological gender differences, the physicians that specialize in hormone replacement therapy and provide testosterone replacement in women agree that when testosterone is replaced, the goal should be 10% of male optimal testosterone levels. Again, I'm going to repeat that one more time. The goal we're striving for, it's 10% of male optimal testosterone levels. Keep in mind, I'm saying optimal, not reference range normal. Normal is within normal range. Optimal is an ideal value. So it is very unlikely that women will have optimal testosterone levels while living a stressful life in the normal modern Western society. It's very unlikely that women will have good testosterone. All physicians know and agree that testosterone levels in women decline with age, just like it does in men. But this decline is much more drastic in women. Testosterone is made by the ovary and the adrenal. And we know the production of testosterone from the ovary decreases after age 40 because it's running out of eggs. Now, what is interesting is that testosterone in the ovary is made by the tissue around the eggs. It really has nothing to do with the follicles, the cysts that make eggs. However, testosterone production declines dramatically with stress and age, likely because the luteinizing hormone, which is the hormone that stimulates testosterone production from the ovary and is made by the pituitary, likely because during stressful times, LH production is most likely very diminished, and the consequence is low testosterone. So clearly, an adult woman has seen some serious stressor events throughout her life. And also, adrenal production of hormones is more likely geared towards making cortisol instead of testosterone. As an adult woman, you have to grapple with raising kids, having a stressful job, and daily family life demands. Most of the time, the reason why we physicians check testosterone levels in young women or adult women is because we suspect a problem. And that is the problem in and of itself, as so many women are already suffering from super low testosterone. So there's very little we understand or know about testosterone levels in women. Let me talk a little bit about testosterone levels when we replace testosterone in women, which again is that optimal level we strive towards. I recommend that you check with your physician for more detail about what is optimal and what he or she knows should be optimal and what you're striving towards. But the goal for testosterone replacement in women is always going to be a level that is above what is considered in range and is looked upon and called supraphysiologic. What do I mean about that? The level target that we have for testosterone in women when replacing it is going to be way more than their baseline. And also it's going to be more than what is considered maximum normal by any lab measurement, Quest, LabCorp, etc. So what should this supraphysiologic level be? The consensus about testosterone level and what I was trained is that we should aim for 10% of optimal male testosterone. Now, keep in mind there are physicians out there or practitioners who advocate for 20%. I think that's too much, but that's my own personal opinion. Now, what's the optimal testosterone in men? Well, that has been studied, but it's interesting how the reference range for that has dropped in the past 10 years. I have labs in my chart for men from 10 years ago, and the reference range for testosterone was a lot higher than I see now on the reference range for Quest. That's a very interesting question. Why is it happening? I don't know, but it's interesting and it's happening. So the optimal testosterone level in a male should be somewhere between 750 and 1200. 10% of 750 is actually 75. 10% of 1200 is 120. So when I strive to replace testosterone therapy, that's the level that I discuss most women are going to feel benefits at, between 75 and 150. Again, for the purposes of this podcast, I want to make it clear that when testosterone is replaced in women, their level is going to be much higher than normal and much higher than the reference range, which is going to make a lot of physicians who actually take care of the same patient and who do not know anything about testosterone therapy in women, it's going to make them wary, and it's going to make them caution you and tell you your testosterone levels are too high. Now, I think that's wrong, because as a physician, I would like to pick up the phone and ask that doctor, what is your reasoning behind your therapy? Why does she have such high testosterone levels? And ideally, I would do that before telling the patient, hey, your testosterone is too high. Check with this doctor that's giving you testosterone. Maybe he or she doesn't know what they're doing. Number one, it makes the patient nervous and undermines the credibility of both doctors. And number two, she loses her faith in both you and the other doctor, because now she doesn't know who to believe. If you're going to a family practice doctor, a cardiologist, a neurologist, and they do not routinely administer or manage testosterone therapy, you probably should take their feedback cautiously and maybe come back to your original physician that started the testosterone therapy. And I'm sure that he or she discussed the levels with you, but it's best to hear them again. And I get that question a lot. And patients forget. Sometimes they've been on testosterone therapy for a year, 2 or 3, and suddenly another doctor checks their hormone levels, or they see the testosterone levels and they get the, oh my God, what is wrong with your testosterone? When they've been at this testosterone level for years, they feel great, and all the problems they were having before are gone. But again, this so-called supraphysiologic testosterone in women does help a lot and can reverse depression, fatigue, irritability, loss of muscle mass, and improve sexual desire. Well, what is too high? That's hard to know, but I have an idea, and I think pretty much above 200 to 50 is way too high. But that we don't really know, because many women can tolerate very high levels of testosterone with no side effects, which makes the counseling of patients even more difficult. I have seen women that get testosterone replacement shots, testosterone cypionate and propionate, in so-called adjusted for a woman, but they're very high doses. These testosterone replacement shots are only intended and meant for men because they create a huge spike in testosterone. And these shots deliver very high peak levels. But these women obtain significant relief from depression and fatigue without any side effects. And they have testosterone levels that are like 400 or 500. But again, that is not the norm, and more on that later. So I discussed and addressed where we make the testosterone, what does testosterone do for the female body, and how does it feel when we have low testosterone. And I also discussed optimal testosterone versus normal in range. I will stop here for now, and I would like to address in the next episode, what do we do now that our testosterone is low? Can we work with the body to make more of it? And if not, then what are the options for testosterone replacement in women? What are the side effects of testosterone replacement? And last but not least, is testosterone replacement safe for women? I will attempt to answer all these questions for you in the next episode, so please stay tuned, and thank you for listening. If you liked the information you heard and you'd like to hear more, please subscribe and follow my podcast. Should you find the content helpful to not just you, but possibly others, please share it and feel free to leave us a review. You are welcome to join the Facebook group, The Warrior Optimizing Wellness MD. I certainly hope that you've heard many things in this podcast that made you go, wow, I did not know that, or wow, I'd like to know more. So keep listening and I'll keep talking.